A car company built its most expensive product around a part that doesn't exist. No engine, no pistons, no exhaust pipe rumbling in a parking garage. Just a battery, 4 motors, and a price tag north of $2 million. And somehow, people are lining up to buy it. This is the story of the Rimac Nevera, the most expensive electric car ever built, and the strange business logic that makes its absurd price actually make sense. Rewind to a garage in Croatia, years before anyone had heard the name Rimac. A teenager named Mate Rimac is racing his old BMW when the engine finally gives out. Most people would replace it with another engine. He replaces it with an electric motor instead. Along the way, he blows up a battery pack so badly, the whole garage fills with smoke. Most people would take that as a sign to quit. He takes it as a sign to build a better battery himself. That stubborn decision eventually becomes a company now valued higher than car brands most people have actually heard of. Here's the part that doesn't add up right away. Building this car from nothing wasn't cheap, and it was never going to be. Just designing a single hypercar prototype can burn through several $million before a customer ever sees it. Big manufacturers spread that cost across hundreds of thousands of vehicles. Rimac planned to build roughly 150 units of the Nevera. Do the math, and every dollar of research gets divided among a tiny handful of cars, like splitting a restaurant bill 3 ways instead of 30. So what exactly is under that carbon fiber skin that costs so much to build? 4 separate electric motors, 1 per wheel, sending precise bursts of power in real time. That's part of why this car can go from a standstill to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds, a number that puts it in the same conversation as fighter jet acceleration on takeoff, at least by some estimates. But speed alone doesn't explain a $2 million sticker price. The real cost driver is hiding in the battery. Rimac didn't buy an off-the-shelf pack like smaller manufacturers often do. They engineered their own battery chemistry and cooling system from scratch, a process that can easily run into tens of millions of dollars in research before a single unit reaches production. Then there's the skeleton of the car itself, built almost entirely from carbon fiber instead of steel or aluminum. It's lighter, it's stronger, and it's brutally expensive to manufacture, often requiring hundreds of hours of specialized labor per component. Add up the custom battery, the quad motors, and the carbon fiber structure, and some industry estimates put the actual production cost of a single Nevera well over $1 million before Rimac makes a cent of profit. Suddenly, $2 million looks less like highway robbery and more like a company barely breaking even on its flagship product. Which raises an obvious question. If the Nevera barely turns a profit on its own, how is this company actually making money? Here's the twist most people miss entirely. The Nevera isn't really the business, it's the advertisement. Rimac quietly became one of the most important technology suppliers in the entire auto industry, licensing its battery systems and electric drivetrains to companies most people trust far more than a Croatian startup. Porsche didn't just write a small check out of curiosity. They became a majority shareholder. Hyundai tapped Rimac's engineering to help build its own high-performance electric division. When brands with 100 years of credibility start handing over serious money, that tells you something about where they think the industry is actually heading. Think of the Nevera as a rolling business card that happens to cost $2 million and hit 258 miles an hour. It exists to prove a point. This technology works, and it works better than anything else on the road right now. Of course, proving a point is one thing. Finding 150 people willing to pay for it is another. But remember, there are thousands of billionaires on this planet, and for someone in that financial stratosphere, a Nevera isn't transportation. It's a statement that almost nobody else on Earth can make. And that exclusivity isn't an accident. It's the entire product. Owning one comes with its own set of surprises, though. And not all of them are glamorous. Insurance alone can run into the tens of thousands of dollars annually, since a cracked carbon fiber panel isn't something your neighborhood body shop can fix. Only a handful of technicians worldwide are qualified to even touch this car. Here's the strange part, though. Because there's no engine, there's no oil to change, no spark plugs to replace, no exhaust system to maintain. One of the most expensive cars ever built might genuinely cost less to maintain year to year than a gas-powered supercar worth a fraction of the price. Try explaining that logic to your accountant. None of this really explains why someone writes a check this large, though. The real answer isn't mechanical, it's psychological. Most Nevera buyers already own private jets, so raw speed isn't the appeal. The appeal is being one of roughly 150 people on the planet who own this exact machine, and knowing that number will never grow. There's also a piece of history wrapped up in the deal. The Nevera holds the record for fastest production electric car ever built. Decades from now, that record might make today's buyers look less like people who overpaid for a car and more like people who got in early on a piece of automotive history. But here's where the story gets genuinely risky, and this is the part that keeps investors up at night. Betting an entire company on 150 ultra-wealthy buyers is a fragile strategy at best. Tastes change fast in that world. If electric hypercars suddenly feel less exciting than the next flashy trend, or if a rival releases something faster, demand could evaporate almost overnight, and there's no mass market safety net to fall back on. The bigger risk sits somewhere else entirely, though. Rimac poured tens of millions of dollars into research that only pays off if partners like Porsche and Hyundai keep licensing the technology instead of building it themselves. If those partners ever decide to bring everything in-house, the foundation this entire business is built on could crumble almost overnight. The Nevera isn't just an expensive toy, it's collateral in a much bigger, much riskier bet on the future of electric performance. So here's a mistake a lot of outside observers make when they look at this car. They assume the Nevera is nothing more than an overpriced toy for people with more money than sense. That misses the point entirely. Every dollar poured into this project is really funding research that will eventually show up in cars regular people might actually drive one day. Today's absurd $2 million hypercar is tomorrow's battery technology sitting quietly under the hood of a family SUV. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Why does a car with no engine cost more than most people's houses? Because the price was never really about leather seats or a badge on the hood. It's about custom battery engineering, hand-built carbon fiber construction, 4 independently controlled motors, guaranteed scarcity, and a seat at the table of automotive history. It's part supercar, part science experiment, part billboard for an entire industry's next move. And somewhere right now, a $2 million car with no engine is silently blowing past 200 miles an hour, proving that the loudest statement in the car world doesn't need to make a single sound.